Your first question is, why do you want to run?
That's easy. Student voices have not been at the center of anything that the SGA has done in a very long time. Every year since I've been here, since 2017, the SGA has strayed further and further away from working for the students and turned to working for their own personal and political reasons. It's time that we hold the administration accountable. It's time that student voices are heard, that students have a seat at all tables when decisions are being made at the university. Chris?
Yeah, that's why I joined Kyle in this. I very much was not involved in SGA, but I was very much affected by a lot of the things they did as like an active member of various RSOs and an agency. And so when Kyle presented the opportunity to me to run for an SGA that puts students' concerns over any political or personal agenda, I was attracted to it and went all in.
And there's no better time than to start initiating change. Change has to start somewhere, and we're ready to be that change.
Great. Now, I realize before we get into it, I do want to give you the same 2 minutes just for you both to say a quick introduction about yourselves, so I can include it at the top. Does that work?
Yeah, so my name's Kyle Kendall. I'm a senior nursing major. I am an Air Force veteran. I have 2 deployments to undisclosed locations, both during my time at the university, during which time I still somehow managed, when I was over 7,000 miles away, to stay in tune with things going on campus. I still access my email, still making sure that student voices and their concerns were being heard through the SGA channels that through the network that I had built with administrators prior to leaving. I work as a bus driver on campus. You might recognize me from the COVID testing video and what that's going to look like. You might have seen me when you were getting your COVID test done at UMass. Sorry. Chris.
All right. Yeah. So my name is Chris Figueiredo. I'm a junior chemical engineering and biology double major. A little bit about me. I'm a first-gen Latino student from a poor family that immigrated back in the 1990s. And so what I did when I came to college is I really wanted to make the most of it. So I joined a lot of registered student organizations and agencies, University Programming Council, UMass Skiing Board, UMass Spikeball Club, and I got really involved with them. I took up a couple of leadership positions. I currently serve as Director of Finance for UPC. I'm a competitive member with the Spikeball Club, and I'm also a board member for Skiing Board. So that experience drove me with all of the SGA involvement in all those organizations, I really wanted to understand what they were doing and why, because I couldn't see how they were benefiting us. So I decided to join, learn what they were doing, and input my voice into what was happening to make it so that other students didn't feel like I did within these clubs, and to make a student government that actually helped its students versus just taking away from it.
I should also mention that my freshman year, I was the area governor for Northeast and Sylvan and actively involved with RHA. I have been the president of the Sport Parachute, our skydiving club, for 3 out of the 4 of my years at the university. I was a member of the men's rowing team until I got too old, and the division said that once you turn 24, you can't be a member anymore, and I'm now 26. I've been a member of navigators and crew on campus, and as well as very involved with the Club Sports Council and recently the Club Sports transition to Campus Rec.
Question number 2. How do you think the SGA needs, where do you think the SGA needs the most improvement?
Chris, you can start this one.
Internally, I think all of the problems SGA currently faces there needs to be a focus within before we can focus on the without. If we are dysfunctional on how we approach, or if we're dysfunctional within how we approach the different problems that plague our campus, is going to be dysfunctional. So there needs to be internal change to represent our students, our concerns, our voices, so that we can properly address the concerns of the entire campus, and that we have the students that can do that within student government.
And I would say that it's a simultaneous approach. I would say that you need to focus internally, so that way you can actually do the work for the students. Where SGA currently is very, I'd say broken. It's broken. It doesn't work. Or at least if it does work, it's not efficient and not effective. It's in order for that to happen, to get the students to actually come to the SGA, you have to start rebuilding that trust with RSOs and with the student body. I'll be honest, if you walked on campus right now or you emailed any student and they actually opened the email, they'd probably tell you that the SGA is a big joke to them right now. And we're at a pivotal point with this election cycle as to whether RSOs, agencies are going to either go all in and trust the SGA, or if they're just going to say, you know what, forget the SGA, we don't need them. And at that point, if that happens, it's going to take forever to rebuild from that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
What are your policy initiatives, and how will you ensure that the SGA is an anti-racist organization?
So everyone has probably heard the saying, treat others the way you want to be treated. And I think that can't be any further from the truth. You should treat others the way they want to be treated. And I think focusing internally on yourself and having everyone within the SGA focus internally on themselves, recognizing their implicit bias, recognizing their privilege, is where you get started. All three of the candidates that are running, as you heard tonight, were all white. All the presidential candidates were all white. We all have to recognize that we have privilege. And moving forward, anyone we work with, any policy we work with, we have to understand the impact that has on BIPOC students. We have to realize the impact that it has on LGBT students, on international students, on transfer students, on anyone who isn't represented by the SGA. The SGA is supposed to be first and foremost for the students, by the students. And that currently is not the case. So moving forward, all the policies, any initiatives we have, will make sure that they are student-centered, and that we're giving more weight to BIPOC and marginalized communities than our own voices.
Yeah, not too much to add on, but one thing I would like to do is currently within my work in the cabinet now, we are improving the consultation policy and revamping what Wellman means to the administration. So I definitely want to continue that work to hold the administrators and the university accountable to anti-racist measures, and making sure that there is some guidelines in how they respond to things that happen or respond to any situations that arise.
Great. And those two questions were put together but slightly different. So if you did want to say more policy initiatives, I can give more time for that as opposed to another question.
Yeah, so policy initiatives, again, working to make sure that students have voices. So, working with the trustee to ensure that we get the Fight for Five by simply starting a petition. That's how you change laws in Massachusetts. You start a petition, you collect signatures. So working collaboratively with the student trustee, because it's been shown that clearly the Board of Trustees is not interested in entertaining that conversation. Locally on campus, working around RSO reform and agency reform and how the SGA does relations and business with those. The Racial Justice Coalition, or the RJC, has a list of demands that I have emailed in my email. I've read them over, but working with them collaboratively to get that list to the administrators, to the proper administrators, so that we can start implementing and seeing change firsthand on campus.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would just like to echo that last point. I would definitely like to incorporate the RJC a lot, if we were to take over into what we work on, and give them more of a role in what we do, in terms of passing motions and so on.
Great. Now, given the pandemic, the specific context that we're in, how do you plan to support the entire student body, including students in different time zones, students in a variety of living situations, internet access or other challenges or vulnerabilities faced by the student population specifically now?
So definitely through the Dean of Students office. We have a new Dean of Students, Dr. Ashley, who's only been on campus now for about a week, but working with the Dean of Students office to outreach to those students that are having those issues, to better understand the effect and the reach that those issues have. And again, in the midst of this pandemic, we just saw the Faculty Senate release the spring schedule, and mental health has not been a priority in anything. I myself am experiencing burnout. We're only 3, maybe 4 weeks into the semester, and I'm done. I'll be honest, 100%. I'm already done with the semesters. I think most people are. So now is the time to go to the Faculty Senate, get students their voices to be heard, and say, hey, listen, we don't want these mandatory wellness Wednesdays. Give us just a day off. So one of the thoughts that I had to present is days that we would get off, because the whole idea about taking away spring break is to minimize potential exposure and risk bringing COVID back to campus. But if you give a Tuesday off one week, you give a Wednesday off the next week, you give a Thursday off the next week, it spreads things out, and there is still mental health breaks. Classes aren't being affected directly because the next week you'd have that class, but it also still breaks the monotony up. So yeah, anything else, Chris?
No, I think he hit a lot of what I would have said. Just working a lot with administration to make sure we do reach out to all of the students. One blanket policy won't work, so it's really about dividing and conquering, making sure we touch on everything, and making sure administration does the same.
I think also in collaboration too, using disability services, although we know that's a broken system, but using them to try to collect data on students that have issues. I'd say I'd love to ideally be able to send out an email and say, what issues are you having, and then collect all that data. But people are in information overload, email overload, emails go overlooked, all unread too, now more so than ever. So like I said, the whole thing is you have to meet the students where they're at.
Final question. If you do not win the election, how will you continue to hold the SGA and campus accountable to support its students?
That's awesome. So if we don't win the election, which is entirely a possibility, I'm going to hold by my promise that I say every single time something happens, don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. You can't get rid of me. If I don't win, I definitely plan on applying for a cabinet position. If I don't get a cabinet position and there's Senate seats open, I'll run for that. If there's nothing available, I'll continue using my professional relationships that I have with campus administrators and the vast array of student connections that I have on campus to make sure that their voices are still being heard. Again, I'm not going anywhere. You can't get rid of me. You probably can't get rid of me even after I graduate.
Yeah, no, I very much with Kyle on this one. I think all of the candidates are very competent and will do very well in the role. And I would love to be a part of their cabinet if they would have me. I love my current position and would definitely reapply if we were to lose. If not, again, any open Senate positions, if not special advisor or deputy secretary, whatever position may be, but I will be here. This is important work and I'm not going to leave it behind.
And I'll add to that. My my biggest fear and concern right now is that we don't reach the required 5% of the vote. So if you're writing this article, please include something about getting out and vote. I don't care who you vote for. I don't care if you write in Mickey Mouse, if you write in Swami, get out and vote. Tell your friends, tell everyone that goes to UMass, graduate or undergrad, to vote.
Great. Enjoy the rest of your evenings, if you can. Evening, nighttime.
I'll be doing homework.
Exactly. Yeah, me too.
And lastly, Claire, I don't care who you vote for. Make sure you vote.
Got that message. Thank you. All right.
Hey,
All right.
thank you so much.
Take care, both of you. Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
You too.